Hello, and welcome to the first video version of The Measure. This started as a written blog on climate and energy that I began in 2017. This is the first video version. I figure if I make things shorter and simpler, I can get more of these out. And I want to begin with a quote from uh, my blog, something I posted in January concerning the wildfires in Los Angeles. And I just want to talk about the very first paragraph. Natural disasters are becoming like school shootings. We get upset for a day or two, maybe we blame whichever politicians we don't like, and then we move on. The political will to engage in preventative measures doesn't yet exist, so we twiddle our thumbs until the next event happens and the cycle starts over. So I wrote this in January, and here it is, July, uh, about a half a year later, and here we are again. And honestly, what happened in Texas last week was quite a bit worse than what happened in January. It looks like the death toll is going to be something close to 300 when all is said and done. And it's just a horrible, horrible tragedy. But I don't really want to get into the details of what could or couldn't have been done. I think that part of the story is still developing, and it's probably going to be developing for a while. I mean, there are going to be investigations and more serious analyses of the situation or more detailed analyses of the situation than we have right now. Um, what I do want to do is focus on the context of this event and other weather-related events that have happened in a world where the climate is changing and that events that are worse than the worst case scenario that was prepared for are becoming more common. Because I think that's something that what happened in Texas last week very much has in common with um, what happened in Los Angeles in January, and also what happened in Western North Carolina in the fall. Things that weren't prepared for. So I want to talk about a couple of quotes. This is from a website. So this was in Western North Carolina, one of the area that was hit by Hurricane Helene. This is from 2022, and just look at the first two sentences. When it comes to climate, the mountains have always been an attractive place to live, now even more so as climate change makes severe weather events even worse elsewhere. And, I can't emphasize the word elsewhere here enough. And the other thing is a quote from a New York Times article a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, rather. In an interview, Rob Kelly, the Kerr County judge and its most senior elected official, said the county did not have a warning system because such systems are expensive and local residents are resistant to new spending. Taxpayers won't pay for it, Mr. Kelly said. Asked if people might reconsider in light of the catastrophe, he said, I don't know. So there are a couple of conclusions that we can be drawn from this. The first is that there is no elsewhere. Uh, every place is vulnerable. Every place is more vulnerable than it was 50 years ago to the whims of the weather. And that's something um, that we're going to have to get used to. Um, but, uh, you know, people have been resistant to at least some degree to do what's necessary to keep the warming from getting worse because it's expensive. And one of the arguments that frequently gets made is that, well, we can always adapt. Well, adaptation is expensive too. And the longer we do nothing or not enough uh, to mitigate global warming and its effects, the bigger that cost of adaptation is going to become. And if it continues to, the more that or the greater that cost of adaptation gets, the more people will be simply unable to pay the cost of adaptation. Forget about being unwilling. That'll be unable. And that's the reality that we're dealing with, or that we would deal with if we chose to deal with it. But every place needs to think about this and then do something. And we are in our current situation, we have uh, cut money to the National Weather Service. We've cut money to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. We've taken money away. Uh, is this adapting well? You need to ask yourselves this. Is this the time to be um, taking away from the things that give us the information we need to prepare as best as possible for when these events happen? And, that's the question I want you to ask yourself. Um, Regarding events like what happened last week, and events that have happened in the fairly recent past, and events that are going to continue to happen. Something like this will happen again in the not too distant future. Uh, and so that's all I'm going to talk about today. The next talk that I will give will be about the physics of this. The physics of flooding and the physics of droughts. Why do we think and why do we know that a warming world is going to make both those events worse? And things like the wildfires in Los Angeles and the flooding in Texas are more closely connected than you might think. But that'll be the subject of the next my next video. But thank you for your time today, and hopefully you'll tune in further.